Hi, I'm Shade Foray with TaxSaleSupport.com. I'm here with Steven Swenson, and in this video, we're going to talk about Colorado and some changes that Colorado's made recently that make it possible to not only earn high interest rate returns, but also to be able to acquire property for a fraction or a percentage of value, low percentage of value. And so we're going to show you how all that works and discuss some of the changes here in the coming video.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go through and talk about a few key points, and then we're actually going to go look at a tax lien auction that's taking place right now and go look at through some of those upcoming liens. But last year, Colorado changed their tax sale laws. You know, Colorado has always been considered a tax lien state. But now you can actually buy Colorado tax deeds as well, and we're going to get into actually how that works.
Yeah, in fact, it's actually a result of a Supreme Court ruling that happened in Nebraska, but it was related to property tax enforcement, and as a result of that, it affects all of the states. And Colorado decided to change their laws to get ahead of it, so they wouldn't have to deal with it. So we're going to see if we can help you understand how it works. Now, traditionally, the way that Colorado has worked here in the past, they've always been a tax lien state, meaning that they had a tax liens that were offered up with a 3-year redemption period. So basically every year between October and December, they would hold their tax sales. But those liens would be sold with a 3-year redemption period, and they paid out a rate of return that was considered to be 9% above the federal discount rate, which right now is a little bit over 4%. So their interest rate return is about 13% right now, is where they would be at. Now, they've also moved to a lot of online auctions here, over the recent years. But for many years, decades, this is how their sales operated. And at the end of the 3-year period, if as a lien holder, if the lien hadn't redeemed yet, you could use that lien to foreclose on the property, basically just for the delinquent taxes owed. So you'd have to pay any other taxes that were owed on the property, obviously. But beyond that, though, that was all it took basically to foreclose on the properties.
Yeah, exactly. Now, these tax liens are sold with a 3-year redemption period, which means that you can go ahead and start that foreclosure process at the end of the 3 years. But in the past, the lien holder would start the foreclosure process at the end of the redemption period. So if the tax lien wasn't redeemed during the foreclosure, then the property was actually awarded to the lien holder. So after the foreclosure took place, the county would actually send the tax deed to the lien holder, and the lien holder would acquire the property.
Yeah, now this is actually where the changes came in, or where I guess why Colorado had to make the changes, because what happens with this system doesn't create any kind of overage or overbid for the previous property owner. In other words, regardless of the property value, the only thing it's going to cost for the lien holder to foreclose on that is to pay off any other delinquent taxes that are owed. But essentially, they get the property for the taxes that are owed and nothing more than that. What Colorado had to change was they needed to set it up so that properties would still be sold at auction, to the highest bidder, so that there would be money that would be left over, an overbid that would be left over for the property owner. And so that is basically what is changing here. They've turned into a tax deed application state now, or a state similar to what Florida does, in that now they sell tax liens just like they always have. But what just changed is what happens at the end of that redemption period. So in the past, maybe the lien holder could just foreclose on the property. Now, when the redemption period expires, the county schedules, actually the lien holder applies for a tax deed, and that prompts the county to schedule the property for an auction.
Yeah, exactly. So before, where the lien holder would do the foreclosure and then acquire the property, now they're just taking those properties and they're offering up at a tax deed sale. And whoever purchased them at the tax deed sale will go ahead and pay off the interest in the lien holder's investment. So everyone gets paid in this circumstances, as far as the lien holder gets paid back their investment, and then the property is sold to as a tax deed, where people can actually acquire the property, which can create some type of overbid amount that can go back to the property owner.
Yeah. And so, yeah, basically by the high bidder acquiring the property, all of the, they're going to use the proceeds from that to pay off any of the liens that exist. So including all of those tax liens that exist. So including the lien holder that filled out the tax deed application. They're going to get paid off for their initial investment plus the interest rate that they've earned, up to that point. And also, what's different about this is, in addition to all that being paid off, there's still going to be an excess amount of money that is left over, between what was owed in taxes and how much the property sold for, which is called the overbid. That money is supposed to go to the property owner that basically lost the property at the time of foreclosure. And so what this does is it's a matter there that limits whether the person can lose all of their equity in the property, or whether or not there can be some equity left over that can go back to them. And that's what the tax deed application system does. By sending the property through an auction instead, it guarantees that there will be usually money left over there, above and beyond what was owed in taxes.
Yeah, exactly. So, the lien holders are paid back. The deed holder gets a chance to acquire the property, and it's really kind of similar to Florida. In fact, I think they kind of base their system off of Florida's system, where when you buy tax lien certificates now in Florida or now in Colorado, you're not really getting the property. The only way you'd get the property is if nobody bought it there at the deed auction, then you could go ahead and get the property after. But if it's a good property, chances are it's going to sell at one of these auctions.
Yeah, in fact, that's going to happen in almost every case. And so, really, in a place like Colorado, you can start investing now. They've always had liens there that you can buy, and you can continue to invest in liens there, as they offer them up, each year. But there's a new opportunity in Colorado as well for these tax deed auctions for the properties that, once the redemption period has expired and a tax deed application has been filled out. And so those are a new type of sale, and many of the counties that are conducting them now are conducting them for the very first time.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as these auctions, they can take place at the county courthouse, but like Shade said, a lot of these counties are moving these over to online auctions. So you can participate in the auction. Of course, even buying tax liens or tax deeds, we want to avoid risk. So it's important we find out exactly what we need to do to go through and research those properties before buying them. But it gives us a great opportunity in a state to not only purchase tax liens, but now have a chance to get those Colorado tax deeds. In fact, one of the slides that we have on another one of our trainings, we show some Colorado tax liens that turned into tax deeds, and that these lien holders acquired those properties. Now those properties are going to be available for us deed investors as well to purchase them, where we don't have to worry about tax liens if we're looking at just acquiring property.
Yeah, there were some amazing deals, from lien holders, that eventually could foreclose on properties and could do it for very little. But yeah, I do like this better in, just because it gives deed investors the chance to bid on these properties and to acquire them, and it leaves something left over here for the previous property owners. But like Steve was saying, we still need to do our research on these liens. I mean, a tax lien is only as good as the property that it's been placed against. So we need to do the regular research that we would do on liens to make sure that these are liens placed against properties that have good value, and we don't see any perceived risks. So let's do this. Let's go and check out that cell here and some of those liens. Okay, so what we're looking at here, here is the Garfield County Treasurer's site here. We click on preview items for sale here. This is going to show us tax liens that they have currently available. Enlarge this just a little bit here. So you can see we have the this for the tax year, and so for the tax year of 2024, and then we can see the face amount, which would be the amount here of the lien. And so we can click on this link right here, and it's going to give us some property details.
Yeah, exactly. So we see that this is about, a $6,500, little less than that, taxing certificate. We have the property address listed there. As we scroll down, we can see the ownership information, the building details. So it looks like this is some type of commercial condo that was built in 2007 and is about 864 square feet.
Yeah, but yeah, we can see, and in terms of its value, it looks like it's valued at $327,000. So just by seeing what we see here already, we know that this is going to be a secure lien, to invest in, because it's, a $6,500 lien on a property that's valued at, over $300,000, $327,000, and it's also relatively new. What's interesting too is we can also see that the property address, and the owner listed address are the same. So it's probably owner occupied as well. Um, it has a high probability of just redeeming. Like most liens do, has a high chance of redeeming. It's definitely a safe investment and one that would be well worth buying.
Yeah, in fact, it looks like the owner's information is the same as the property address. And this is a business, so they're probably having their mail sent to their business.
Yeah, they even have it owned, under a entity with the address. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so chances are this property's not going to go to the tax deed foreclosure. It'll probably be paid off in the next 6 months to a year, and the investor will earn an interest rate return. Now, there's a chance that it could, but really, the way the Colorado system works now, we're not going to acquire the property anyway. So if we hold it for a time, make a good interest, we can take that money and put it into another tax lien.
Right, and we know the property is worth, I mean, at least the tax assessed value they're giving it here, or the estimated market, is 327,000. We could also look if we wanted and see what the exact market on it is, because the market could be higher than that. But we're just looking at that at a glance and knowing that it has enough value that our $6,500 is secure. But if we had any concerns at all, we could dig into that a little bit more and check the value. So for $3,400 here, or about half the amount, let's see what kind of property we had. Oh, and this is interesting. So this one is, rather than being an improved property like the last one, this is a piece of vacant land, 35 acres of vacant land for $3,000 lien anyway. Here we can see an overview, an overhead image of the property, and we can see here that it's valued at, putting it at $250,000.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's 35 acres. One thing that's interesting as well is we can see that the owner isn't from Colorado, they live in California. So really what this is this is a valuable piece of land worth $250,000. We have some of the town and information there. We can go ahead and check the GIS map to see exactly where the property is located at. But, this is a property that's probably more likely to redeem than our last property. Now, there's still probably a small chance, 5-10% chance that this would go all the way to a tax deed foreclosure. But, the fact that the owner lives out of state, the fact that it's land, this increases the chances that it would actually go to that foreclosure sale and be offered up as a tax deed.
Yeah, this would be an excellent property. It looks like it's accessible here from this road as well. It's a great piece of land, and for the $3,000, you'd be very secure. It's a highly secure investment, because, like Steve said, it's going to redeem. Nobody's going to let that property go to foreclosure, because of because $3,000 in delinquent taxes, with it being valued where it's at. Let's see. So here's one for $472. Let's see what a cheaper tax lien is for. And this cheaper tax lien we're looking at here is, let's see.
It's actually probably a parcel lien. It looks like it's a condo.
Yeah.
Built in 1968, 400 square feet. So it's probably a small 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo located in Colorado there, valued at $253,000.
That value is crazy. That jump from 24 to 25, I'd probably treat it like it's valued closer to, like, I don't know. Do you think they finished it or something?
I'm not sure that, yeah, that's a massive massive jump in value. I'm not sure, maybe they've had a huge amount of sales within the area or something.
Huh. It does look fairly nice.
Looks like it's on a lake there.
Yeah. Well, for $470, that is a highly secure investment as well. Like, in other words, that property is valued well over, probably over 100,000. If we're looking at it, could be over 250,000. So your $400 investment is ridiculously secured.
It'd be kind of interesting to actually look and see what Zillow or Redfin values that property at.
Yeah, this last one here.
Yeah, just because there is such a discrepancy
Yeah, let's see.
in what the last year value was versus this year's value.
Yeah, let's grab that address here. What a weird address. Let's see.
Just try it and see if it'll pull up.
That looks like it.
Oh, it's located on a ski resort.
Is that what it is? Yeah, it is, huh? It's the Fretzelberg condos. You know, we could probably look it up and find out more information here, but it's on Glenwood Springs. You know, which yeah, it is. It is on uh, it is on a ski slope. You know, it says it's closed. But that's interesting. It means that we probably won't be able to get any kind of nearby images here of the property, but I'm sure it's worth a lot.
Well, and I would imagine it's probably closed because, it's summertime
Yeah,
as far as the resort itself.
yeah, that's true. Oh, and the one we're looking at here is number. Oh, unit 5A. All right, so unit 5A here. Oh, there you go. It did work. All right, so this is this gave me B6. So you can give me 5A.
It looks like it's a similar one though, 400 square feet, one
Oh
bedroom,
yeah,
one
I'm
bath.
sure it's identical, almost. Yeah, yeah. So there's a chance we could maybe find the actual, this actual condo. But yeah, we can see condos here that are identical to it in size, 400 square feet, and that are right by it. That's another nice thing about condos. Is usually we can get pretty good comps on them. And the comps are dead on.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that it's probably closer to the 200,000. Maybe the county was, for some reason had a lower assessed value than the actual property value and jumped it up. Because you can see it stayed there at 76,000 for a couple of years there. With 82, that went down to 76. Not sure if they maybe had an exemption or if it just what happened there.
Oh, that's interesting.
You can see somebody just bought it uh, a couple of months ago for 245,000,
Yeah,
which means it'll probably get redeemed within the next 6 months or so.
yeah, yeah. That is true. All right. Any other of these we want to look at?
We could maybe check out one more.
Let's see. $1,700, and we have this one right here, which this is listed as office condo, and let's see, we do have the address here on it. Buildings around here, and, oh, and so the owner, yeah, lives in the same city, but obviously has a different location. And the property here they've got valued at 149,000. Looks like it was built in '83. It's about 597 square feet.
You can see in that case, the county jumped up the value quite a bit as well. The county must have had everything under assessed.
That's weird. This is I thought this was like a house. Oh,
I
it's
think it was an
not.
office condo.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Is like an office. So it's one of these in this complex here. I guess it looked like it was like a little office condo by itself, but it's actually part of a complex. Yeah, because it's one of these right here. I wonder
It
if
might,
yeah, it's probably not going to show a value here with it being.
might not because it's a commercial.
Yeah, I doubt it. Oh, maybe it will. Price unknown. Yeah, yeah, but any of these liens, and I guarantee so many more here, on this list are great liens. All these are really good. What's different now is that there's also deed opportunities here, in Colorado now as well. because any of these liens here that sell, if their redemption period expires, then uh, the lien holder is going to fill out a tax deed application that will send these to an auction, and then they'll be sold at auction to the highest bidder. And so that's really the main thing that has changed here, with Colorado tax liens.
Yeah, exactly. And the Colorado tax sales are taking place right now, so, as far as the tax lien sales. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of auctions taking place. So now we've looked at some tax liens. Let's go ahead and look at a few tax deed properties. These are properties that are coming up to auction this month in a tax deed auction.
Yeah, so here's a property that we can see it's opening up for $20,000. So that's the combined total of all the taxes, fees that are owed. We can see the property itself has an assessed value of 156. Looks like it's a market of about 161, and so there is still profitability there, for an investor that potentially wants to buy the property.
Yeah, exactly. This property is located in Pueblo, Colorado, and that opening bid amount, like Shade said, it's going to include the tax liens. So there's at least 3 years worth of tax liens because it takes 3 years before you can start the foreclosure process. There's also that interest added on as well. So let's say the tax lien was making a 10% interest rate, that's going to be included in that opening bid amount. So whoever buys it at that opening bid amount, or if it bids up and whoever buys it for the high bid amount, is essentially paying off any of those tax liens that were previously owned by the investors, plus any interest that they're earned, starting with that opening bid amount.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what would have happened before they changed this law is that the lien holder that was trying to foreclose, that wanted to foreclose on the property would have had to pay off any of the other liens, and they would have amounted to roughly $20,000. And so they would have had to pay $20,000, but then they could foreclose on the property and they wouldn't have to pay anything more than that. And the main person it shorted was the previous owner. If there was any equity in the property, then that would be essentially lost, and that's what's changed now. So instead of it just being gone for the 20,000, it has the opportunity to go to auction, and now whatever it sells above that, will be set aside there for the property owner.
Yeah, exactly. But either way, pretty good opportunity on that property in a tax deed sale. Here's another property on that same list. This one starts with an opening bid of 3,323, is and has an assessed value of 27,500. And I would say the market value is over $40,000. In fact, if we look here at the bottom, here are two properties that are located in the same area that sold for 43,000 and 45,000. Very similar type of lots. In fact, if you look kind of at the map, you can see that this particular property actually has a lot of homes around it. It has homes on both sides of it. So this is really a building lot that's ready to be built on, that's in a neighborhood that's growing, and that probably is going up in value every single year as well, as far as the actual value of the lot.
Yeah, deals like this are awesome. Just because you have vacant lots, which are easier to buy as out-of-state investors. It's easier to tell what's on that property, what the condition is, everything. We don't have to worry about a lot of that. It's also easy to tell that this is a good usable property here with all the building that's happening all around it, and would probably make it that much easier to sell. So yeah, this is awesome. That there is a property here that you could potentially valued at 40,000, starting at less than 10% of that. It means that there is good opportunity here for investors.
Yeah, and we'd probably try to get this property for around 15, 16 cents on the dollar or less. But even if somebody was to pay 10 grand for it, let's say that they paid, 25% of the value, and then they put another couple $1,000 into going through quiet title, maybe they're into it 12 or 13 grand, and they sell it for 45,000, they're still able to make a huge return on it, even paying 25 cents on the dollar. And some of the lots that are like this one, that are located in areas that are going up in value, that have a lot of home building within there, can be worth paying because there's still a huge amount of potential profit. We don't have to worry about rehabbing the property. We don't have to worry about doing anything like that. We just need to go ahead and clear up that title if we want to get that top dollar. Or we could go ahead and wholesale it. Maybe they sell it for 20 grand and sell it very quickly and make 10 or 15 grand on it.
Yeah, in fact, in a lot of areas like this, if growth has been good enough, just hanging on to a property in an area like this can make you pretty good money, on a year-to-year basis. with just appreciation, nothing else. Just ask all the investors in Florida, that have owned property there. Colorado has a good market as well that is growing strong, and it would be a good place to hang on to property here, even from year to year, just for the appreciation. Here is another property here. Its opening bid is at $7,900, $7,902 to be specific. It's assessed at 115,000, but the market is closer to about 170,000. And so it does have some pretty good profit potential, in this deal. It's starting out at a very low bid to value ratio.
Yeah, exactly. With any type of tax deed property, we're going to make sure that we do our due diligence beforehand. We're going to research the property's history, the property records. We're going to go research the owner's information to look for any government liens that could survive the judicial foreclosure process. We're going to determine what the market value actually is. We're going to get an on-site evaluation. But going through this research, this gives us an opportunity to start acquiring property in Colorado in a tax deed format that we can pick up for a percentage of the property's overall value.
Yeah. So just in review, Colorado has traditionally always been a tax lien state, but they changed recently over to a system that we call a tax deed application system. But whatever it is, very similar to what Florida does, in that when the redemption period on liens expires, lien holders need to fill out a tax deed application if they want to pursue foreclosure, on the property. And what that does is send the property to public auction, by the county. And so that's kind of the main thing that has changed here with Colorado. They still have liens, but now we also have deeds available as those redemption periods expire.
Yeah, exactly. Also remember that Colorado has a 3-year redemption period. So if we buy a tax lien within 3 years, we're going to get paid back, or we're going to fill out that deed application. And then, of course, after that 3 years, any properties that go through the deed application process will be sold in a tax deed auction. And as far as what the current interest rate is, it's 9% above the federal discount rate. So if the federal discount rate is 4%, then we'll add 9% on that. If it was 3%, we'd add 9% on top of it, and that would be the interest rate for that year. Colorado is the only state that does that. Most states have a specific interest rate return, 18% or 14%, but Colorado does a little bit different, where they base it off the federal discount rate.
Yeah, which it ends up being, fairly competitive with a lot of the other lien states, where it sets at right now at about 13%. So still, it's a decent amount, not the highest, not the lowest. But the main thing that's changed here is that now when properties do sell, there's more likely to be an overbid, and that overbid is what's going to go to the previous owner of the property, or the individual lost property. So that's really what a lot of the big changes have been about, is just making sure that if a property is foreclosed on, and just for the taxes alone, that some of that money left over, has a way to get back to the property owner.
Yeah, exactly. When we're investing in tax lien certificates, we're investing in tax deeds. It's so important that we get educated and know what we're doing. Me and Shade see mistakes happen all the time in auctions that we're bidding on, in auctions where our students are bidding on, and we may have done the due diligence and sent somebody by to do an on-site evaluation on a home to find out that the home has been burnt down. And you can tell by the bidding at the auction that the investors that are bidding on that property haven't done that. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so aggressive in their bidding. So if you're interested in learning more, we think we have the best tax sale education program value out there. Our membership program starts at $29 to $49 a month, but it's going to give you access to all of our auction lists, to all of our weekly trainings and live webinars, our program materials, everything that's included in that monthly fee.
Yeah, I mean, our program curriculum, just the training program itself, our materials you can download and then read and study, that include a workshop manual and a quick start guide that kind of goes through the mechanics of how tax liens, tax deeds, and redemption deeds work, and kind of give you a good understanding of how they work. But then we also look at, beyond that, at other states. We also look at how individual states work. It goes through and looks at that, and it can also help you understand, as an investor, what kinds of investment strategies exist. What are the different ways that you can invest in tax sales, and which one is most likely to work for you? We go through all of these things in the program curriculum, and again, there's so many things we can include or talk about that are included in this training, like the list, like the weekly trainings that we do, like all the thousands of hours of recorded trainings we've done in the past there. Yeah, we think it's a great bargain here. So if you're involved with tax sale investing and you haven't become a member yet, we think it's a good idea to join.
Yeah, in fact, you talked about that, kind of reminded me of our investor profile system, which will go ahead and we have 8 different profiles depending on what type of investor you are. And it describes how that profile works, and then has a list of states where you can use that profile. So you can go through the profile and say, okay, I'm in profile number 3. And then you can see the list of states and go review each one of those states and decide which state is going to work best for you. So if you're interested, please check out our membership program on taxsalesupport.com. Also, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel or to our Facebook page. Makes a big difference, and we really appreciate all of you.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thanks again.